Welcome to another episode of Undiscovered Beasts and Strange Phenomena. Please join our experienced and knowledgeable panel of hosts as we explore the great mysteries of our time: Bigfoot, UFOs, ghosts, and unexplained phenomena.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Undiscovered Beasts and Strange Phenomena. Tonight, we welcome in a very special guest, but first, please allow me to introduce my co-host and fellow colleague, Mr. Adam Davis. Adam, how are you this evening?
I'm very well. I've got things moving very positively at the moment in my direction, but more on that when I can. For now, we'll focus on our guest tonight.
Absolutely. You always do have a lot going on. I will say that for you. And we do have quite a guest this evening. I've been looking forward to this show for quite a while. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight joining us will be none other than Mary Marshall, the Paranormal MD. Mary is an educator, author, lecturer, presenter, investigator, and field researcher. She is the founder and director of the Paranormal MD Investigations, as well as Psychics Unite Schaumburg. Mary teaches paranormal studies at the College of DuPage, Harper College, and the College of Lake County. She manages the Paranormal MD Investigative Research and Science website and radio show, and Into the Woods, Wisconsin Bigfoot and Other Phenomena. We will be discussing Mary's wonderful book, Continuum, also this evening. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Miss Mary Marshall. Hello, Mary, and how are you this evening? Mary, are you with us? I think we've lost Mary.
Hello, can you hear me now?
There she is. Yes, Mary,
Hi.
thank you.
Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction. That was a big to-do. You said without further to-do, good thing. So thank you. That was very nice.
Well, you're very welcome. We're very appreciative to have you on. Adam and I are big fans, follow you a little bit. Actually, you've been quite busy in the field for a while now, and you certainly have a lot of different things going on, a lot of exciting stuff. And one thing, Mary, I always kind of like to ask a lot of times when we bring in somebody is it's kind of like whatever got you started in the first place in all this. Can you tell me a little bit about how you ever got into this in the first place?
You know, there really isn't an easy answer because one thing sort of always seems to lead to the next. But with that being said, I suppose in the paranormal side of things, just having a sighting, seeing a ghost, other just strange things going on. Always was very interested in psychic medium phenomenon. And so, yeah, that just sort of led me. I think earlier in life, I tended to probably stay away from it. A lot of it at the time was the way I was raised in religious beliefs, and people around me were, you know, like it's all evil, it's all bad, you know, kind of a thing. So I think in trying to appease other people, I kind of stayed away for the early part of my life. And then, you know, just said it's time. And that just started an entire journey that I had no clue would end up doing what I'm doing and where I'm at right now. When I started doing it, it was just really like, you know, just wanting answers and wanting some new, little fresher and more scientific approaches to how things were being done. This is going, you know, back already. Since then, we've transformed. And then just, again, going from one field to the next. It was really, to me, important in some of the cases that I worked on. I think led me in the directions of starting to look into cryptozoology more and ufology more. And since then, I've just found it invaluable, to be quite honest, because of the technique.
Forgive me, Mary, can we cut back a little bit? Because one of the things, that we were talking about, and we'll come on to your own personal sightings, was what really is the difference between a ghost and a poltergeist and a spirit? Many people don't really understand the difference, and we thought, you'd be the perfect person to explain to us. Could you elaborate?
Sure. I tend to break the categories down probably a couple more times than a lot of other people, and it's simply because it's what I'm looking at. You're looking at behavior, characteristics, capabilities, those types of things. An intelligent ghost or intelligent entity is considered a human entity that you can interact with, communicate with. And that could be in the sense of EVPs, an electronic voice phenomena. Those, I'm not sure audience-wise what everybody's familiar with. So if I'm saying too much, I don't know. But an electronic voice phenomenon and trying to capture things in photos and so on and so forth. But it's the interaction. And they're quite aware and conscious of what's going on around them and will comment even in on your conversations. I've had that happen countless times. I'm discussing one thing with a living person with me, and then on the audio, they've commented on our conversation. So that's an intelligent. Then you have a residual. A residual plays itself out, a human ghost that plays itself out like a film loop. Or it plays itself over and over, whether you're there to witness it or not, it is occurring. There's a few different theories as to the cause of this, that there is a imprinted, sometimes it will be described as trapped, but an imprinted energy left behind. It's a residual. I tend to think that this may explain some of the cases, and I think this is it with a lot of phenomena. I don't think that we look at it and say, oh, it's this these two things are the cause. It could be 3, 4 different things, or more. But with that being said, I tend to think that you also could be looking at dimensional tear, in a sense, tear in the fabric of time. So that you're looking at, September 3rd, 1933 at 3:33 p.m. You see a woman walk up to the stove, grab a pot, turn away, and she fades, and this happens over and over. And we think that because they're not aware of us, that, that there's no life to it, no life force. It's a left force. And it also could just be like looking through a keyhole, time and space in the continuum, as far as you're just seeing that specific moment. There's a whole world playing out just like we're living in right now, but we're not privileged to see it. So we're only seeing that same 10 seconds over and over.
And what might a poltergeist be? Because obviously I want to break down the categories, and I want to talk a little bit about a couple of the specifics. So is a poltergeist different from an intelligent?
Absolutely.
And how does it differ?
Poltergeist generally is considered to have a human agent. Most people tend to think of poltergeist, the movie Poltergeist, being demonic activity. In its truest sense, it's a noisy ghost. But we have found case after case when you have often teenage girls, but I've had it with adult females and males. They are actually contributing to the activity without realizing it. And this kinetic energy starts occurring. You generally you get the person, the source. Either sometimes it might be, they might be anxiety ridden and a lot of things going on. If you can get them centered or remove them, the activity stops. Occasionally, when it's a lot of negative energy going around, it can take on a life of its own. And then, of course, you have demonic, and then I feel another category is demonically possessed human ghosts, which people at first go, huh? And then it helps explain why some of them have stronger capabilities. And when I say demonic, I use that word loosely. And the reason for that is because not everybody has the same religious beliefs and associates it that way. But we're looking at the characteristics and the characteristics and behavior that we're looking at is most closely related and described as your biblical demonic or historical demonics, for that matter.
So we've got these different categories. And I want to go into a couple of specifics on them. And I know that was a very broad brush, but thank you for that. That's very useful. So you mentioned right at the start, one of the things I was very interested in, that you had your own ghostly experience. Now, when was that, and what happened? Because you weren't into the subject then, is my understanding. So if you could tell us about that, I'd be fascinated.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was always an interest. I was always reading, but I wasn't actively doing anything in the field on it. One of the occasions would have been I was at a B&B in Galena, Illinois, and I was seeing a residual, is what it landed up at the time, and it had this fluorescence, which is often looks like that glowy white people will describe.
Okay.
And it repeated itself over and over. I would see it. I was sitting on a front porch looking towards the street. There was the street dead end at a high hill with no stairs going down. Mm-hmm. And this woman, looking mostly glowy white, came out. You would see her from the side of the building, and then it would get to the bush area, and you could just see, just more still see it, and it would fade. And this, probably about by the fifth time, I just was watching so intensely. The person I was with probably thought it was crazy because I just bolted up the front porch and ran over.
How did you feel? How did you feel when you saw it? What emotion was going through your head?
I think the first thing is it's a disbelief, but yet you know what you're seeing. It's just that simple. I mean, I still will do this on investigation. Occasionally something happens and you're like, what? Like, come on, kind of attitude.
So what was the person with you? Did the person with you see it, or did just you see it at the time?
I just thought because I was facing that direction, and there was a hesitancy. I didn't even say I was seeing anything because at that point in time, I didn't want them to think I was like crazy, And so,
was it a boyfriend? Did you not want to? Did you not? Your boyfriend? Did you not want to think your boyfriend was crazy? Is that what it was, Mary?
Yeah, that's what it was. I just didn't want.
I knew it. He
thought it was crazy enough, but if I now say I'm seeing ghosts, that's it.
So you think that was the first time you saw a residual? I know we've got. I could talk to you for hours. I know, but I've got to pinpoint a few things that I think will be really fascinating to our listeners. So can you tell me? I mean, that mustn't be your only time you've seen ghosts. Can you tell me when you've dealt with it or interacted with a spirit, and how did you feel and what happened? Could you tell us one of your stories? That would be really useful.
Well, interestingly enough, I'm going to actually go back because we were talking about, this is pre-really dating, starting anything. Okay. And it happened to be the same person that same boyfriend. And
are you still with this boyfriend now, Mary?
No.
Oh, there you go.
He was just completely crazy, so I had to cut him loose. No.
Okay. He was the crazy one. No.
He was the crazy. I just had to say that. No.
Okay.
the thing is that in the same period of time, we ended up going to a different B&B. It was in Michigan. And I ended up having dreams, apparently, that night, and had been talking in my sleep. And, like, I woke up, and I'm kind of weirded out because he's laying next to me just, like, staring at me. And I'm like, okay, this is not creepy. And he's like, so how are you doing and how you feel? I'm like, fine. He's like, so did you have any dreams or anything? And I'm like, well, now that you say that, and so I proceeded to go on and talk about how that I had this dream about there being ghosts in this house. Wow. And saw the layout of what everything looked like, and it's almost like if they had kind of showed me. And like the room we were in, this used to be a doorway over here, and that was there, and blah, blah, blah. And long story short, at breakfast that morning, we talked to the owners, and in fact, that was the layout of the place at an earlier time. So I wouldn't have known that, what it looked like, but yet I described what it looked like.
Wow.
So it was just kind of that interesting.
That's fascinating. So have you ever? I love that. Have you ever interacted with any spirit? Have you ever had a spirit speak to you directly, or anything like that happen to you?
Yes. It audibly, sometimes you will hear it with your ears. Interestingly enough, I would say some experiences that I started to have were when you capture, when we were talking about EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon, put out an audio recorder, it starts recording, you and I are the only ones in the room, and yet upon playback we hear another voice. So I will be talking about something, and I'm going to unpack some equipment. You hear the entity repeat what I say, and this had happened a lot. They're repeating what you're saying or commenting. But what started to happen was I started to repeat what they were saying. And that was kind of interesting to have the personal experience of when you hear that they're, talking to you, whispering in your ear, but you're hearing it subconsciously. That, in effect, was the experience that I had, and I had the audio to, I guess, prove out that experience. In that I'm talking about, I hear on the audio, you'll hear a male say, back there, down there, and then I'm saying, hey, you know what, there's a room back there down, and I'm almost saying it verbatim. But there's a room back there. There's something can you go in there with a EMF meter and check things out? And so those types of experiences started to happen in which, I'm repeating what they're saying. And that can be kind of upon listening to it, because you're not hearing it at the time necessarily, it's kind of surreal. But
you've had a few. One of the things I was interested in, because you were I like the breakdown you did of the categories of ghosts and spirits and poltergeists before. Have you ever had to deal with any of these? I don't want to dwell on it too much because it comes to a question I'm going to ask subsequently. But have you ever had to deal with any of these really nasty things? And if so, how did you deal with them?
Deal with, you broke up. Deal with what?
Any of the really nasty spirits? Any nasty thing? And how do you deal with them? What do people do if something like that is in their house?
Depending upon the intensity of the entity itself. And now we're not talking anything that might be considered demonic, with just some really nasty, jerky ghost. Often, it can be easier to get rid of them than it can be to get rid of a benign ghost in your house. In other words, if Grandma doesn't want to leave, she's not leaving. you know?
Right.
Right.
But there are more metaphysical things that seem to be effective. They don't make any scientific sense, but they seem to be effective in removing negative entities from your home. When things personally happen to you, it's bad. I feel very bad for people because our homes are a place of solace, you know?
Yeah.
And you feel very violated. I went through an experience where I had been scratched from a ghost, from an investigation, but actually it was a whole kind of a little bit of a story that this thing followed me back to the hotel room.
Oh, no.
And it landed up scratching me. And it was, I was angry. It was like that feeling you would have if you had been physically assaulted by a person.
Right.
You just feel, you know, violated and angry a little about it, and, you know, just have to be a little more careful the next time. Now, there's some people in the field who really almost like that. I know that sounds strange, but I mean, I've talked to people who've been like, yeah, I went on this investigation and I got pushed down the stairs and it was awesome. And I'm thinking, and you're an idiot because you don't need that to prove that there's ghosts. You know, we don't need to get hurt to find this out. But yeah, did I answer? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I did.
Your question?
I want to break it down because the two other sort of follow-on questions. You did absolutely answer my question. Now, the next question, because it comes onto perceptions of ghosts, and you know, and a couple of questions that I ask, which would probably be of a more skeptical nature, but I want to create some balance. You know, what people may say to you is, you know, Mary, why do some people see ghosts more than others? And what would you say about that?
Why do the ghosts more than other ones?
Why do some people say they can see ghosts? Yeah. So other people can't see anything when they're in the same place. Why do you say that some people have got more ability, allegedly, to see ghosts than other people?
I don't know necessarily the answer as to why, but I will say this. And this is going to sound like a very strange comparison.
No, that's cool. Go for it.
If you think about therapy dogs, and they're bred and raised, and they're often, if you know, as far as how the lineage is going to go, is from certain families, and some are better, and then they keep breeding them along that line, and they use them for things like if somebody has epilepsy, because they're able to tell the chemical changes and so on and so forth, things that we can't see, hear, or physically feel. They're able to sense this chemical, whether it be from sense of smell and then other senses, to help warn the person so they can get down to safety. And there are other reasons that you can use this. Now, I brought this up because I think that there is something that there could be a genetic disposition in some people, in some family lines, because if you notice, it does tend to go generation to generation. Now, that doesn't exclude anyone outside of that from coming, you know, certainly at all. I think that we all have the capability to some degree but some people are really, really going to have to work at it. But some are just easier, like this lineage and in the therapy dogs. They're just better at doing it. They're better at tuning in and having those senses heightened, possibly, rather than it just being some, because to me, I kind of tend to go more to the science side of things for the explanation. There possibly could be some genetic, some slight differences that makes it easier for them to access that ability.
Okay, good. I mean, when we look at these ghosts, I mean, one of the questions that I had about ghosts is that there are some instances when I've been researching it of things like Roman soldiers, but they tend to be fewer and far between. So if we are talking about an entity, a being that has a consciousness but it has no body, do they have some sort of, for want of a better word, and I'm not being flippant, do they have some sort of time limit? Because there's lots of talk about them going into the light and things like that. I mean, why are there more modern-day ghosts than, say, medieval ghosts or Roman ghosts? Do you have an explanation for that?
Well, I'm thinking with your accent that you would notice that there's a huge difference between here in the States and, let's say, if you were to go to the UK. And because of the age. You do deal with ghost entities that are much further back in time across the pond more than you do here, for probably just the reason of where the location of the people were at the time when they passed. That would, it's kind of a one given thing there. But you also have culture playing a big part. And what I mean by that is culture in its simplest form is what a group of people know and do. And I had the privilege of teaching for quite a while, co-teaching a paranormal class with a cultural anthropologist, and it was really helpful to us both. And the reason I bring that up is because we act accordingly to our morals, our beliefs, our values, our religion, everything we do and what we identify with. Those same things follow us to the other side. And that's why not historical research of the property or the land, but really understanding the culture of it, of maybe the time period and so on and so forth, or religious beliefs become valuable when you're trying to determine what do they want, how long they've been there, who is this, and so on and so forth. If you were born and raised in let's say Vietnam, they believe that if you are not buried, and there's a lot of cultures like this, if you're not buried properly, that you will wander the earth forever, and you will be very angry with your family, and you will let your family know this that you're very angry.
So it comes on to a spiritual point. I just want to sort of cross-link those 2 points, because you've mentioned something that's very important there. Because a lot of people who do ghost investigations, when I've seen shows or I've heard them talk, they talk about going into the light. And you mentioned the afterlife and that being some sort of tangible state. What does going into the light mean to you, Mary? And what's your perception of the other side? Do you believe in a heaven, a hell? What happens to us when we die?
Well, I had like about 4 thoughts all try to come out at the same time.
Great. Get those thoughts down. It's fascinating.
So I believe that when people die, that they do what we refer to go to the light, which is a higher energy. And referring to light, if you want to look at it even scientifically, as photons and high frequencies. But heaven, people have said that. And because I've had to teach paranormal classes at the colleges, and I've got atheists and Catholics and somebody who most closely identified with Hinduism and all of this in the same class. Is somebody will say, well, what about heaven? Well, heaven is in another dimension. Wherever these people are coming from that have passed are considered dead on our plane, their energy, their life force, their consciousness, their soul is somewhere else other than living full-timeness in ours. And so they have the ability to pass, back and forth. So to say beyond, it's in another dimension wherever they are, I mean, it's just purely guessing, speculation, at that point of what that means. But, it's like we all tend to be like, oh, heaven, and, people will look up. Well, where is heaven? It's in another dimension.
So do you believe that these bad spirits that we talked about, this is speculation on my part, I'm going to put it to you. I mean, are they afraid of going to the bad place? Yeah? Is there such a thing as a hell to you, Mary?
To me personally, yes. And I say that because when I tend to think that people who, even if they didn't, if they're in this field long enough and experience enough things, your perceptions and your beliefs have got to be affected by it. I do believe in whatever in entities that are demonics. I do believe that there is certainly something like hell, in that this is the place that they're coming from. Because, again, if you go through and you look at things like exorcisms, which seems so Hollywood now, that, there's people who have died as a result. And you look at, people like, Ed and Lorraine Warren, and who are some of the pioneers who are bringing this more public, even all the way back in the late, 50s. But, yeah, I mean, it's the people are going through things. You can watch a video, and this is long before any kind of, our CGI and all the things that we can do now. And watching someone go through, let's say, an exorcism where they're trying to remove something that they consider demonic, and you're watching wounds appear and open before your eyes. And there's just too many documented cases. Certainly, could some of them not have been? Yes, absolutely. But is it something that exists? It does.
Well, that's useful. I mean, one of the, I want to move on to your teaching very shortly. I mean, and this next question is kind of linked to it. And it's really, if I was really skeptical about this, what I might say is, and this is what I'm interested in what your courses teach, is that science may say right now, well, there's been no definitive proof of the existence of ghosts, and they've been analysed for a long time. So therefore, as far as science is concerned, they don't exist. What would you say to that?
I think is to first understand how that works for them. And what I mean by that is scientific method dictates that you have to be able to repeat over and over the same experiment in controlled environments. That is not something that we can do. It makes it very difficult then by the scientific criteria of what is needed to have anything under their belt be considered proof. That is not to say, though, that there is no legitimate definitive explanation, let's say, for electronic voice phenomenon. They've tried this, it's a demodulated signal, it's that, well, people have tested with this, and that doesn't seem to be the case. And the same thing for any other type of phenomena. I mean, if I'm looking at light anomaly, I certainly can look out when I'm out in the woods and I'm, doing an investigation. Certainly, probably a majority of the light anomalies do have a natural explanation, but some of them do not. And it's just kind of weeding it out. But science, I understand why they say that, because they need to say that. That doesn't mean, though, that there is not proof. I look at it as if I were to enter this into a court of law. You have, circumstantial evidence. Is it this? Is it that? And some of the cases that are put together in such a way that, if tried, there'd be a guilty plea, I guess, if you want to say that way.
Yeah, I worked as a lawyer for like 10 years, so I'm asking you with my legal head on, so you kind of judge where I'm coming from.
Yeah, well, you know what? I have paralegal background, so maybe that's the same. You know where, what is expected, and you understand the skepticism. I always say, if I present something and that's the thing about science, it's peer review, and someone shoots holes in it, I may not like it, and it doesn't mean that whatever it was that I captured, however I captured and documented as evidence, isn't truth. It just means I need to find a better way to gather it and present it so that it can stand up to scrutiny better.
Good. So you've not got an ego about it. It's not all about you, is what you're saying. You're quite prepared to have objective scrutiny.
Absolutely. And I think that's
good.
Everyone should. Unfortunately, that's not the case, but everyone should be able to do that.
That's good. So let's explore a little bit about what you teach, because I'm interested in your teaching, in your methodology. Would you like to talk about that for a bit for us?
Sure. Thanks. Well, I do landed up, how it really started is I was helping a friend out who was teaching a communications class. And this was over at Harper College, which was where we designed the whole program. And I was out, at the time I was a smoker, so I'm outside. I was having a cigarette, and I had been on my mind. I thought, I'm going to go talk to them, see what the situation is here about starting some sort of class. I walked in the office, and I explained who I was and what I was interested in, and the woman behind the counter gave me the strangest look, put up her finger and said, hold on a minute. And from that, she says, go into this office here, Scott, his name was Scott, he'll talk to you. Okay. Apparently, literally within the hour before that I had been there, they had all been talking about possibly putting together something, but didn't know how to go about doing it and didn't know anybody in the field or with the knowledge that they were looking for. So it just started a whole relationship in trying to appease the world of academia, but also get information to people in a way. And so a lot of it comes from culture and science mixed in with the metaphysical and spirituality of things. So I cover things that have to do with quantum entanglement, multiverse theories, neurology as it relates, and people go, what the heck does neurology have to do with it? Well, the 101 ways your brain can trick you. This was before the TV shows that came out, which were great because I could use that as an example because people think, no, that isn't, until they experience it and go, oh, I guess we can be tricked. So are you seeing what you're seeing and feeling and so on and so forth? To talking about ghost light anomalies and other just not real necessarily common, but strange, bizarre phenomena or incidences that occur. And then there is a class that gets into the historical part of it. They approach it from that way for historical research. You get it from a pop culture even perspective of what is this all about. And so this is what the program is. I continue to teach things, anything to do with near-death experiences, psychics and mediumship, to, the hardcore. Like I said, let's bring in some theoretical physics and quantum and put it and explain it to people in a way that is easy to understand.
Yeah, cool.
Everybody doesn't need to know the details and the fancy words. What's the point?
What's the point?
Now,
one of the questions I had, because it's a broad sphere, many different subjects, is there are these people who are spirit mediums who claim to have connections with ghosts and speak through themselves, having some sort of alleged psychic ability. What do you think of these spirit mediums?
Well, I think that, first of all, psychic mediumship is one of the most studied phenomena out there.
Yes,
more
that's
than,
why most.
Yeah, and there's people who have done continued research. There's a guy, Chuck, his name's Chuck. Him and I had talked years back before he did this. We were on the same page because I personally think that everything's always a matter of money, because who has the money to spend on these things, but everybody who's out on an investigation should be wearing caps with their brain waves being fed to a computer. And the reason for this is that I think it would be very interesting to see, do they respond at all in any neurological changes, maybe seconds, 15 seconds before whatever happens, a phenomena occurs. What are their responses, the physiological responses? What are the neural synapses? Are they firing off more? Is the temporal lobe more active, so on and so forth? That would be something, I would love to see.
Well, that would be very cool. Let me tell what I'm coming from. I want to get your view on this, because I'll tell you why I'm so interested. So when we look at the history of these psychic mediums, they were very big and very popular in Victorian times, and then they did this photographic analysis of the fact that the stuff that they were saying was plasma as energy was not found to be genuine, and people like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who was the editor or who wrote the Sherlock Holmes novels, was kind of ridiculed for supporting them. And now they've undergone a resurgence, and you have these psychic mediums who go on TV. I think Tyler Henry, and there's the Long Island medium, and these people are becoming very popular again. Now, I don't know what to make of them. Genuinely, I don't know what to make of them. All I can say is I did go to a psychic medium show in Stockport, and the woman there was, Mary, and you don't mind exposing frauds, I know, she was a terrible fraud. She made up a load of rubbish. She said that she was Chinese, and when I challenged her, the only thing she could say in Chinese was hello, and I felt that she was taking money off people for their suffering. So I was quite irritated by that. I'm just wondering, is this a minefield subject, or any of them? Can we trust these TV psychic mediums? What do you think of them?
I mean, obviously nobody. I don't know anybody personally. I think for the most part, most of these who are doing any of the reality shows, whether it be for ghost hunting or for that, for the most part, are legitimate people. The thing we have to remember, it's an entertainment medium, and so it is entertainment, producers and sponsors. But I think that they're legit. And here's the thing, is that for many years, I personally have had repeated and very strong experiences myself. But I never talked about it.
So are you a psychic then?
Yeah and no. Meaning
Explain. I've been dying to get to this question, and you've got to the place I wanted to be. So tell me, Mary, tell me.
Okay, so I think I will let me say this. I did avoid talking about it a lot publicly because I did not feel I was not addressing it. Meaning it just was kind of in the background, and it happened, and I would use it on investigations and things like that. But I really didn't start testing it out because that's how I am. Just like I would do in an investigation, I'm going to do it to myself. That logical side of my brain wants wants more validation. I still am in the beginning stages, I consider. And so I the reason I chose not to talk about it is, one, is I wasn't really addressing it, but also there were so many more important things that I could offer. And unfortunately, had I started talking right away, saying, oh, yeah, I've had these experiences or these gifts or whatever you want to call them myself, people are going to immediately tune out. But no, I want to tell you all about the science stuff. That's too late. They're gone.
Mm-hmm.
So, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. It's gotten better, but the way it is, it is. But then eventually it got to the point where I'm like, I need to address this for myself now more. And because I had gotten people got to know me and what I'm about, and, that I'm the logical and the analytical and the science and the this and the that person, that I then felt, you know what, if anybody is in a position to say, hey, look at this too, and and get people to listen, it would be somebody like me who does tend to be very hard on evidence and skepticism. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do. I mean, can you see your own future, or do you not? No. Is there some reason why you can't?
No, and I think that's in general it tends to be the case. I mean, I don't know. There's like some sort of cosmic laws out there. I don't know how that works, but those who tend not to see much on themselves. And with that being said, I probably am stronger I find the mediumship part, talking with the dead entities, more interesting. And the reason for it is that I think that I question even in myself. There's some things that clearly I would not know. But we tend to put in things like reading body language. The older you get, the more times you've gone through multiple similar experiences to quickly evaluate. Our prime is around they say it starts to decline at a certain age, but the prime is somewhere around 50, I believe, for being able to walk in a room and size up everybody and everything in it quickly, more than some younger, because of the experience. You just sort of store it away. Mm-hmm. But you know what? I lost my train of thought. I apologize.
Well, no. Basically, you're talking about being a psychic, and I asked you about whether you as a psychic could see the future. Do you have the next question I had about it was, right, okay, so we've established, I know you didn't want to go on about it too much, and I kind of pushed you in a very nice way, I hope, a very gentlemanly way, about being a psychic. So do you ever get messages about people while you're talking to them, and if so, do you ever tell them?
No.
Does it like that ever happen? How does it happen for you?
For me, it would be I just know. There's just a sense of knowing when it's dealing directly with people. I have done and didn't realize that I think I know this could sound really strange, that I've done it more than I thought, remote viewing. I did it the first time. It was by accident, meaning that someone was kind of pushing me into it, and I didn't realize that they had left to go to this house, because it was a house we were talking about that was haunted and whatnot, and there was a female ghost in there. And he kept saying, you don't have to be here, because I was having interactions with these dead people there. And the validation comes from a couple things. Either sometimes you can check it against facts, but also going into a place cold and you don't know anything, and you are hitting every spot and story and ghost person that was supposed to be there and what their deal is by maybe previous mediums who have been through that you don't know and didn't know about. So the validation has to be against things like that often, but sometimes not. Again, I'm dating somebody, not the same guy.
Another boyfriend? You mean you've had two whole boyfriends during this conversation, Mary?
I know. Unfortunately, this incident was not the same person.
No, a different boyfriend. Did you scare him off as well or not?
No, I had to cut him loose too. No, but and it actually did. Well, it really was kind of strange. But his dad, who was born in Germany, and I didn't know this. I know his dad. He had died about something like 9 months earlier or something like that, and so I literally for like 3 days feel like somebody's talking to me, but I can't understand them. Now, I don't mean audibly. I'm not hearing it with my ears, but it's like this conversation. And at this point, I sat down, thinking, okay, I'm like a crazy person because I'm sitting here in my room, talking to no one, going, what do you want? I can't understand you. So that night I went out. That night I came home, and I decided. The next day, go to work. I'm coming home. I'm in the car, and sounds really strange to say this, and that there's a dead guy in my car, meaning I'm not physically seeing him.
Shut next to you.
Well, yes, but I'm not physically seeing him, but yes, he was there, and he now is talking, and I'm getting $50, and I'm seeing. Now I'm seeing, I'm hearing, and I'm knowing, I guess, at the same time. So you've got a clairaudience and all these different things going on. Mm-hmm. So finally I go, pocket watch. So long story short, he had given, I will tell you, there were some more things said. I'll tell you where it went. Did not want to tell this boyfriend that, this had happened. Because I wanted to check it. I needed to check these facts. So I had gone home, and I wrote down phonetically some of the things that I thought were being said, because I realized I think this guy is talking to me in German. And so then I looked up some things on the internet and found that this Hausen, whatever the heck it was called at the time, because this was years ago, was a pocket watch manufacturer that only existed for about 5 years in Germany during the 1940s, specific time. So talking to this boyfriend, I said, so did your dad ever give you a pocket watch? And he's like, it's funny you should mention that. He had a collection of them, and I've been going around the house the last 3 days putting them all together. At this point, I do the kind of gulp. Okay.
Yeah.
Did he happen to have a favorite? Yeah. And and I see it, and it's this manufacturer that this was the name I was given during this period of time in Germany. Then he proceeds to tell me something that he had just found out a few months earlier, that he had a half-sister who lives in Germany. Apparently, while his dad was going to school there, and I had been given the city in a year, pocket watch. These were the main things. He had an affair.
Wow.
On his mom, and it was in that city during that year. And I find it very interesting that pocket watch was only manufactured right about then. And I'm like, that's why it was his favorite.
Now, we've not got much time, so I'd like to talk very briefly about your book. Do you want to tell us a little about your new book, Continuum, and what you're going to be doing about it?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I'm actually having the first book signing for it this Saturday at a Barnes & Noble in West Dundee, Illinois. It was just a passion project. It does involve adventure and time travel. It's a fiction book. It is not probably, I think, what the people initially expected out of me. And it has some twists in there dealing with something like time travel that I have not seen yet. And everybody who kind of gets through it, I've had just wonderful, praise about it. Got to the end, and there was a few different people that had said, I just love the ending, or was it, wink, wink. In other words, hint. And I went, So I started thinking about it. So I'm actually now writing a sequel to it that is going to go much deeper into the sci-fi part, I think, than even this one did. But yeah, Continuum is it's available at Amazon and Barnes and Noble and other bookstores, and just it's a really, really good story. I can't tell you a lot because you can't give it away, right? Because I never be a spoiler.
You need you need to keep us on attentive. So, other than your book, is there anything that you want to mention that's upcoming that we should know about with you right now that you want to reveal? You may not want to. We'll keep them secret. But if there's other things you want to say about them,
there is a few things that are coming up. There is a book signing this coming Saturday. Then on April, I believe I'm looking at this, but April 14th, Saturday, April 14th, I'm going to be at a Snap It Paranormal Expo in Cicero, Illinois. I'll be doing a presentation there, and there's going to be healers and all that kind of stuff. And then I've got a kind of exciting one. I'm going to be doing something with Haunting History, which is with David Glidden, Dan Williams, and Josh Hurd. We're going to be investigating live at Ashmore Estates, and it will be streamed on YouTube, I think. I believe. Yes, YouTube, Haunting History.
Cool. You have to keep us updated on it, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's other things, but people can go to my website and look that up, and be doing something with the Booth Brothers. That'll be coming up. And so, yeah, all kinds of cool stuff.
Very cool. Thank you very much.
And Mary, we're down to the last couple minutes. Of course, your website, that would be paranormalmd.com, and listeners can find out all about you there and what you have going on, and also about some courses you're teaching. And I find that very fascinating, and unfortunately we won't really have a lot of time to get into that this evening, but I did want to thank you so much for coming in and joining us this evening. It has been such a thrill and pleasure to have you with us.
Oh, it was awesome. You guys are great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, Mary, thanks very much. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity to talk to you again soon, because I think you've made an excellent guest. So thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you.